I've raised, I don't know, 25, $30 million. It's never been in a fund or syndication model. It's always been deal by deal. So, something else I hate, somebody's like, hey, I own 1,000 units, but you own 5% of them. I hate that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I own all my units.
All right, welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. We talk all things real estate, business, and entrepreneurship. Today I've got a entrepreneur, businessman, real estate owner. He's got a ton of followers on Instagram, all through social media. Austin Rutherford from Columbus, Ohio, now living in Broward County, Florida. Is that right?
That was right, man. I'm excited to be here, brother.
I'm excited to have you. You're one of the guys that I really like to follow. There's a couple guys that I'm like, I like these guys. I like your style. I really like your style a lot. So I appreciate you coming on.
For sure. Now, looking forward to add some value, man. It's great connecting as always.
Awesome. So, Austin, you got a $23 million real estate portfolio. You got started at the age of 20. Can you tell me about that journey, where you're at right now, and how you got there?
Yeah, my original dream was to go to the NBA. Those things unfortunately didn't work out. That led me to reading a book called Think and Grow Rich. I think I was 18 or 19 at the time. Completely changed my life. That put me on to the idea of passive residual income, which led me to buying rental properties, and just fell in love with that, concept. Ended up buying a duplex as a rental property at 20 years old. I think it was December of 2013, I believe. And then I had about 30 grand saved at the time, put all that as a down payment. And then I was like, crap, I don't have any money. I need more money to buy more rental properties.
Right.
And, that's when I met a mentor of mine that taught me how to flip houses using other people's money. So raising private money to fund these deals. And flipped my first house at 22, 4 days after my 22nd birthday, netted $107,000 net profit on the first flip, and reinvested literally every single penny back into the business, and got quote unquote caught chasing money for the next 4 to 5 years, flipping and wholesaling and on the hamster wheel of life. Yeah. And then kind of had like an aha moment about 3.5 years ago, 3 to 3.5 years ago, and realized that. And then we pivoted, and essentially now we're only buying rental properties. So the goal is to continue to build the rental portfolio. We own about 130 rental properties, valued $25-ish million. And that's what we're doing now, trying to continue to grow that.
I love that. And that I didn't know about the basketball thing. I didn't know you're a baller. So I'm living vicariously through my son right now. I love playing basketball. What position did you play?
Point guard. I've played everything, but I like point guard the most.
Awesome. And so did you go to college for basketball, or where did that dream kind of, stall out?
Yeah, 100%. So graduated high school, and then I moved to Phoenix, Arizona to play at a prep school out there. It was called Westwind Prep. Prep school is like kind of before college, try to get better offers. I had some D3, couple D2 interests, never had, what I was looking for. And while I was in Arizona, basketball was my life. I worked out all day, every day, literally. And it just got to the point where I hated touching the basketball. I was second in points, first in rebounds, first in steals, first in assists. Like I was balling, but I didn't even like the game anymore. Really? And I just kind of fell out of love with the game of basketball at that point. That's
crazy. I haven't. So do you even shoot hoops anymore at all?
Yeah. So I didn't play for a couple of years, but we play pickup now. I do it for the cardio now and the competition.
Yeah, it's like one of the best ways to stay in shape. I mean, you don't burn any more calories besides soccer and basketball. And to be that type of competitor already tells me how you are as a real estate investor, because I always say, like, whenever I have somebody come through my coaching program, I'm like, if you're an athlete, dude, this is way easier than anything that you've ever done. So do you feel the same way?
No, 100%. Competition, like business is competition. Like there's winners and losers in this game. And, guys like you and I that were competitors and athletes, like we want to win. So I agree 100%.
That's awesome. So you're from Columbus, Ohio, and right now you're living in Florida.
Yep.
What brought you down there?
So my wife and I made the move down here about 2.5 years ago. It's kind of like always been, I love the water. So it's always been something I wanted to do. And living in Columbus, Ohio, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's rainy, there's not much sunshine. So, couple, things led up and we had a choice to make. And long story short, my team kind of imploded. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, am I going to rebuild something that, I didn't necessarily enjoy every day? Or am I going to move to Florida and do that? And we chose to move to Florida. So that's how we ended up down here.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the same thing that happened to me with Kansas City. My team imploded after I moved here. And so like, and that kind of brings me to the next question is like, right now I have had such a hard time finding people to work. Like in the Midwest specifically, in Vegas, I feel like there was a lot of people that were looking to work. But
Yeah.
out here in the Midwest, I mean, unless you're paying somebody like a massive amount of money, it's really hard to find people. How are you dealing with that for your business?
No, talent is extremely difficult right now. I've got a joke with my friends, and like I've hired many people, and like they literally don't want to work. Like they don't show up to the calls. They don't show up on time. They don't do what they need to do. Like it's flabbergasting to me. So a lot of my team is independent contractors now. It's outsourced, so people get paid decent commission, which obviously incentivizes them. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm having the same issues, and a lot of people I talk to are having the same issues
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I just got a good tip from a buddy of mine that I'm going to do, which is called using this company. I've never even heard of, have you heard of Wise Hire?
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can like put together like your job application, and then also, Austin, you can lead it to like one of those predictive indexes to make sure.
Um,
And he's like, I don't even like mess with anybody that hasn't done that. And
yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at. I'm creating funnels and stuff for hires because I've found that like unless somebody's going to buy into who I am, it's really like they're just getting a job and they're going to quit it once it gets tough. So
100%. And I've even tried like the head hunter route as well. That's more recent, so I'm still trying to see how that pans out. But yeah, I mean, anything, I'm definitely gonna look at Wise Hire too.
yeah, my biggest trick that has worked for me lately, we just hired a guy and literally he was tested this week because of that Midwest freeze. We had a bunch of pipes busted and he was out there doing it. And he was one of my followers, and one of my buddies who got me into social media told me, he's like, I go, how'd you find all your good people? He's like, followers. So I started creating these funnels where they comment job and then it sends them an application.
That's awesome.
And then that's how I'm trying to do it, because I don't think I'm going to find anybody just in general, or unless I steal them from somebody else. But anybody who's on the job market right now, it just doesn't seem like they really want to work.
I agree, 100%, bro.
So your strategy now has gone completely into rental houses. Tell me about what you're buying.
Yeah, so a bunch of single families. That's kind of what I've done my entire career. I've flipped and wholesaled a few hundred houses, done a couple new construction single family houses. And then my portfolio, like I said, I own about 130 rentals, probably 90 of them, 100 are single families, and then a bunch of duplexes, and then some smaller apartment buildings, 10 unit, 6 unit, 8 unit, 6 unit, 4 unit. So some smaller stuff, but that's kind of what we're buying. But we're doing the typical Burr model, buy it, renovate it, using other people's money, rent it out, and then take it back to a bank and refinance. The one thing we've changed in the last like year and a half on the refi, because obviously interest rates are crazy right now. We have been doing something called interest-only loans instead of amortizing debt. Because when it's interest only, you obviously don't pay principal payments. So
Yes.
your payment's not as lower, which increases the cash flow. And my goal is sometime in the next 2 to 10 years, because that's how long the interest only is for. Hopefully the rates will come down at some point during that time, and then I'll be able to refinance the portfolio and then put it back on amortizing debt.
Copy that. Yeah, I got my butt kicked in when I first started. That's why a lot of my houses I have no debt on, because I'm afraid of debt. I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you. Like, I'm very scared of it. I almost went under in 2000. I bought 2 houses in Vegas on speculation after I did my first 2 rentals in Washington State. Moved down to Vegas and almost literally went under. And so I'm definitely afraid of debt. I do have some debt, but I try to make sure that I'm like very well insulated. So I know you probably doing the same thing, right? Trying to pay stuff down, stabilize the portfolio.
Yeah.
How do you do it from Florida?
Yeah, so before I moved to Florida, I was one of those people that was like, you have to be in person. You have to meet the sellers. You have to shake the hands. You got to meet the contract, meet in person. And I was on that for many, many, many years. And finally, a mentor of mine, while I was still in Ohio, finally convinced me to start investing in real estate remotely. So we kind of changed the model, put the house under contract over the phone, send an inspector out to the property. My team at the time, in person, project management, would manage the construction. So even when I was in Columbus the last year or two while I was there, was done remotely. So the
Nice.
transition from moving to Florida, was kind of the same thing because I was already operating like that. But to make that initial pivot, it was a very big mental barrier to
Yeah.
get past. But I'm thankful and grateful, that I was able to do that.
Now, are you doing Austin? Are you doing anything in Florida?
I'm not, man. South Florida prices are insane. Nothing cash flows. I
Yeah.
don't fix what isn't broken.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on that. You mentioned, investing in a coaching program at 21. How did mentorship contribute to your success, and what do you look for in a mentorship relationship?
Oh no, it's been a game changer. I mean, every year, literally since I started real estate initially to now, I spend probably $50,000 to $100,000 a year on mentorship, coaching, masterminds, education, events. Going out and learning from people that are in a position that I want to be in. So I mean, I think it's a game changer. Anytime, even when I go into like a new avenue or a new business model, I hire a coach and a mentor because again, like I want the short. The only quote unquote cheat code
Right.
is hiring a coach, but it's
Right.
not really. You still got to put the work in, but like they can help guide you to where you want to go. So for me, it's like I want the shortest way to success as possible. So yeah, I wholeheartedly believe in coaches and mentors. I mean, my mentor pushed me to start social media. Obviously, that changed my life. Pushed me to go remote in real estate. That changed my life. Pushed me to start doing email marketing. Changed my life. Right. It's having people that can push you outside of your comfort zone to become who you should become.
Who was your mentor?
Mark Evans.
Think Evans. Okay, yeah. That's the guy you work out with?
Yeah. Yep. So
Okay,
he
cool.
hasn't been the entire time, but I mean, I think I've been in his group for 5, 6 years now, or something like that.
Okay, cool. That's awesome, man. So you guys are tight.
For sure. For sure.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool to hear. So what financial lessons did you learn early in your career that had a significant impact on your success today?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two big changing points, throughout my career. The first one is that first flip, where I netted $107,000 net after paying everybody off. I was
Right.
22 years old. It was 4 days after my 22nd birthday. And I made the decision to literally reinvest every single penny back into the business. I didn't go out to dinner. I didn't buy a pair of sneakers. I didn't go on vacation. I didn't go out and pop bottles. I didn't do any of those things because I knew one deal, was not going to change my life. And what
Right.
I see a lot of people do, unfortunately, is they finally get that point. It took me 16 months to get that first deal, by the way. So it was a lot of time, energy,
Right.
failure, efforts, losses leading up to that. It's like I wanted to celebrate, right? And a lot of people do that, and they finally have their breaking point where they can have some success,
Right.
and then they blow it, and then they got to start all over again. And it's
Yeah.
crazy to me. So it's like one thing I would recommend for anybody starting, even if you're already starting. Gary Vee says that all the time. It's like the longer you can hold your breath, the better you're going to be off. So the longer you can, play small, not play small, but financially be smart, the more success you're going to have into the future. So that was definitely, one thing that I think helped me on my trajectory. And then the second thing, I kind of explained it a little bit earlier, but I was flipping so a buddy and I started real estate at the same time. We actually were in real estate school at the same time. And I started flipping houses using other people's money. And he started buying rental properties. In the first few years of our career, I was balling. I had a ton of money. I was
Yeah.
vacationing, traveling. He was always like, bro,
Yeah.
how are you always so like liquid? And I was like, no, I'm just doing deals. And then 5 years into the game, him and I are really good friends.
Yeah.
We call all the time. And I called him. He was like, yeah, bro, I just refinanced part of my portfolio. I was like, all right, well, talk to me. Like, what does that look like? He was like, well, I refinanced 30 of my 100 plus houses. And on the refinance, I paid off 10 of them, which right there, that created, $10,000 a month in passive income for the rest of his life. So that's
Yeah.
120 a year if nothing else changes. I
Right.
re-leveraged the other 20. So he probably made, maybe 2 grand a month net on the other 20 houses. So that's
Right.
$150,000 a year for the rest of his life. And then he said, on top of that, I pulled $1 million out tax free. I was like,
Yeah.
come again? And he broke it down to me again. Keep in mind, tax-free money is very different than taxable. $1 million tax-free is like making $1.5 million because you got to pay $500,000 in taxes on it. At
For
the time of my
sure.
career, I've never made $1 million. I was like,
Yeah.
you did this on one deal on top of creating six figures for the rest of your life? And that was kind of like the light bulb moment for me. And I went back to my team the next day, and at the time we were doing about 90% flips, 10% rentals, and we inverted it and did 90% rentals and 10% flips, and have been doing that ever since.
Yeah, I think you're so smart for doing that, Austin. So many people don't realize it's a slow and steady game, the rentals, and it's not the immediate gratification like when you do a flip or a wholesale, but you're building like a massive protection, a force so that you can't be messed with, right?
100%.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So how do you balance all these multiple ventures, managing a multiple 7-figure company, substantial rental portfolio must be demanding? How do you balance your time and focus effectively across your different ventures?
That's the big question for all entrepreneurs. But so I have a property. So we outsource third-party property management.
Okay.
So it's obviously I don't make as much, but it's out of sight, out of mind. We still check on it once a week. We have calls, but that's one thing. They manage that. The active properties, properties that are actively under construction. I'm more involved in that because there's a lot of moving pieces. And then we hire a general contractor to do all that. And then on the social media side, there's been times in my career where I did all the social media, the shooting, the editing, the posting, the planning, everything.
Yeah.
And there's been times where, I had a team that helps shoot and edit and post and brainstorm, et cetera. So right now, we have a team that helps with that. Obviously, I still have to shoot it. I still got to come up with some of the ideas.
Right.
But we were talking a little bit before this call, I feel like in the past I've had shiny object at times in my career.
Yeah.
So I'm just locking in this year, 2 things: double the rental portfolio and build the brand as big as possible, because eyeballs is the equivalent of currency. So those are the 2 things we're going after right now.
Something I wanted to jump back to, I think it's something that we have in common, and it's really pretty cool. I named my first dog Napoleon. Okay,
Yeah.
so you mentioned a book that was very instrumental to you,
Yep.
Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. That book changed my life. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad first, and then I read that book. And you mentioned, you're the first guy to ever mention that book to me on a podcast.
Yeah, crazy.
That's like that. Like I said, I named my dog that I buried in Nevada in the desert. I named him Napoleon. It was such a freaking monumental book to me. I probably listened to that book over 150 times.
I love it.
It's a game changer of a book out there. So I think that's great that you led with that, and because what that book really boils down to, and the funny thing about me, I haven't told you, but like when I first started investing, I speculated. That's why I said I almost went bankrupt, and I quit, but I had got my REO account, and so I stopped 3 feet from gold. You know what I mean? As you know, the story goes, and so I was like, man, I'm never doing that again. And so I know, like, just when you're about ready to fail, that's when success is going to happen, and it's so hard. All this mindset stuff, to do that. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your family and like your upbringing. I followed you. I check on your stuff, so I see a little bit of the things you're doing, going on walks with your dad. How is your relationship with your family? I really admire that about you.
No, 100%. I'm blessed, to have an amazing supportive family. Early on, a couple lessons that kind of taught me growing up. One is like, you don't quit. Because, I'd signed up for soccer, and then we went to practice, and they're like, hey, run 8 miles, and that's practice. I was like, no. I ran the mile, and I got home. I was like, I'm done. Like, I quit. I'm out. And they're like, no, like, you started it, you finish it. And, I had to finish the season because I was there. So that's definitely something that instilled, something good in me. The other thing, which was extremely frustrating at the beginning, I would make money when I was a kid, shovel driveways, cut grass, flip Buckeye necklaces, sell candy, like anything I can do to make money. And I would just stuff it, in the house. I'd have wallets, I'd put it behind picture frames, and I would just have money all over the place. And I ended up losing like a wallet or two, and it was a few $100s. That was a lot of money to me as a kid. Yeah. So my parents were like, let's open a bank account for you. And I wasn't old enough, so it was their bank account, it was just my money. So I put the money in the bank account, and then, life went on. And then I wanted to buy like, ATVs and dirt bikes and all these silly things as a kid. Yeah. And I was like, Mom, Dad, like, I'm buying a dirt bike. And they're like, with what money? I was like, my money? What do you mean what money? And they're like, yeah, you can't have that money. What do you mean? It's my money. And I hated it at the moment. Yeah. But them doing that is what allowed me to have over $30,000 saved at 20 years old to be able to buy my first duplex investment property. So that instilled something very early on. It's like not be wasteful with your money, which looking back is a blessing. At the time, it sucked.
You were pissed. Yeah. That's totally, you're the kid who saved all this money up and they're like, you're not touching it. But like looking back, and that I have those same conversations with my son. I'm like, you're going to hate me now,
Yep.
but you're going to thank me. Because I make him do some pretty hardcore militant. Like, I don't believe in like, in terms of like how you fix them and stuff like that. I'm like, just go, what would I want to do? I would want to be just endurance. So I make him do push-ups and run driveways and things like that.
Yeah.
So you're married right now.
Mhm.
How do you see yourself as a father, as a husband? What kind of role model do you want to be?
Yeah, so I got married, 10 months ago, April 2023. So that was a blessing. We've been together before that for 3-4 years before that.
Yeah.
So it's been amazing. Hopefully, God willing, we'll be able to bring some kids into this world soon. So it's something I'm paying a lot more attention to. Previously I'd never really wanted to be around. I just never wanted the responsibility of a child. I didn't not like them. I just never wanted to be around them because I didn't want to, have to spend any time with it. And now that I'm thinking more and more about it, it's making me think differently because I was the guy who's like willing to outwork anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. I'll put more hours in than anybody else.
Yeah.
And now that I'm thinking about having a family, it's like you can't do that, right? My wife, I can't do that right now. So it's like, how do you build a business where you can be present, right? One of my mentors told me most people, build a business and then figure out how to fit their life around that. You got to invert that. You got to build a lifestyle and then figure out how to make money and build a business around your lifestyle. So that's something that's setting home a lot more over the last 6-9 months. But want to be 100% present. Want to go to all the games, the choir concerts, all that stuff for both my kids, and be 100% present for my wife. So it's a journey that we're on right now.
So you're planning on having 2 kids?
That's the plan.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to bring up a topic that might be a little bit controversial.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with an African-American uncle. You are married to an African-American woman.
Yep.
Race is a big thing right now in the politicals. They're calling everybody. I was just on even here locally in Kansas City, they were calling us, landlords, even African-American landlords, they were calling them racist for like bills. So as somebody, you're married to a black woman, an African-American woman. Beautiful, by the way, absolutely amazing. And I see that you guys do a lot of things together. Very admirable. I know that you're very happy. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, no, it's I've like I said, we've been together 5 years. Early on, with dating and previously with other African American women, there's been times where there was some uncomfort from the ways people kind of look at us.
Right.
It's not like all day, every day, but I've noticed it for sure at times. And it's something, my wife and I have talked about. I'm not, African American. I didn't have to grow up, thinking in different ways. And it's something her and I've talked about. It's like, hey, we're bringing a child into this world at some point. What are your thoughts about it? Here's what I experienced growing up. So it's something I'm thinking about more and more often. For me personally, I've never seen color ever, and it's just very unfortunate at times. I believe. In the real world, it happens. Let's just call a spade a spade. In life, and cops and firefighters and people, there's always the bad portion of people, and it's unfortunate that it happens. So yeah, it's something that I'm going through, and trying to be more aware of and conscious of, because at the end of the day, I'm hopefully going to be bringing, mixed baby into this world at some point.
Yeah, and you know what? God bless you. You will, and everything's going to go great for you on that. Me and my wife, just to give you full transparency, that when I didn't even I was so naive. Yeah, I'm just like you, man. I'm just going to put my nose down. I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to beat everybody. Like when you say that, it gives me goosebumps because that's the same way I am. I'm like, I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to outdo everything. And then, I got married and she's like, first she said, will you get married? I said, no way. I'm not getting married. And then she said, well, are you willing to have children? I said, absolutely. And then once I had the children, I was like, well, I better do the right thing, So I was like, oh, she got me. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. My woman is amazing, just like yours, and she really helps me with my business, with everything, backs me, moved to Kansas City, all these things. One of the things that, I have noticed when we had kids, it was super hard because she was 42 years old.
Yep.
And I didn't even pay attention to that stuff. I just was like, whoa, what's the big deal? Like,
Yeah.
and so we had to go through like fertility treatment. Our kids they were born at 31.4 weeks. They were 3 months in the NICU.
Wow.
And so I've been through all of that. So if you ever personally want to reach out to me, ask me for any suggestion, or if there's anything, like, I know a lot of people, I've helped a lot of people. I'm like the baby whisperer or something a little bit, because I've been through such a big experience with that. Like, my daughter came home and aspirated on her milk, and like
Wow.
we had to give her CPR. She like died for like 30 seconds.
What?
And so it was like some serious stuff. So raising kids is definitely a journey. And now my kids can talk back a little bit, and so that's a whole nother thing. You mentioned one thing about your dad and this discipline, but what I'm trying to figure out is, where did this hustle come from? Because like you're telling me, no kids are going to mow. I was mowing lawns, but I know why. Why were you mowing lawns? Why were you shoveling snow? Where did that come from?
I, People ask me this all the time. I just always wanted money. Like I just wanted nice things. Like I wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to win. If you had money as a kid, like you were, balling. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it just kind of added in me. Cutting grass, I would, get lawns and then pay people to cut the grass for me and then make the margin. In Ohio, there's something called Buckeye necklaces, and they're like acorn type of things, and we would
Yeah.
string them on necklaces and then sell them at the Ohio State football games. And I would have like a whole line thing set up. Me and my buddies would go out and find them. We had drills set up in the garage. We had stringers that we put them on, and I'd pay people for each necklace that they made. I think it was like $1, and we'd sell them for like $6. So I had like a whole like conveyor belt with people paying them, making a margin on it. I'd buy candy in bulk at Sam's Club and then take it to high school and then sell it out piece by piece. Got called to the principal's office because they thought I was slinging dope. I'm like, it's candy, it's gum, like it's good. And I don't know, I just always had the hustle, and just always wanted to make money in some way, shape, or form, legally.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man, 100%. And there's a lot of things. So when we talk about that, like, what other business ideas give you like interest? Like, I would love, you mentioned basketball before. I would love to own a basketball team. That's a dream of mine. Like
Yeah.
football, whatever, basketball would be awesome. Tell me about like, where do you see yourself? Like, I mean, like dreaming big, where do you see yourself in the next 30 years? Like jets and like CEOs running massive corporations, or are you going to chill?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really like thought that far ahead. I don't like managing massive teams, so like I don't think I'll ever have a desire to have hundreds of employees. That's
Yeah.
definitely not on the goal board. But again, I like nice things. I want to have the house on the water. I want to be able to fly private on a PJ, on the big one, the Gulfstream, not the ones we got to crunch down.
Yes.
The number that's kind of always been in my head is like 100 mil. And the cool thing is like in real estate, as you have enough, it's going to happen. It's just, does it happen when I'm 90 or does it happen when I'm 35? Right. I'm trying to condense time right now. So those are some of the bigger kind of goals. But like in all reality, the reason I do it all is for like the freedom. Money buys freedom. That's all it does. So I love traveling, love spending time with my family, love giving back and helping other people. So those are some of the bigger things.
Cool. Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. When you talk about giving back, like you mentioned community impact and stuff like that, what do you do for that?
Yeah. So ever since my first check in real estate, after I made that, every year since then, I've adopted single mothers for Christmas and their kids.
Oh, wow.
So giving them all Christmas stuff. We do. It's funny. Like I'll make the call to the parents, and I'm like, hey, like what do you guys need? And it's usually like, hey, like a jacket or like some pants, like something very basic. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, like what's the big ask? Like what's the real ask? And then they're
Right.
like, all right, well, like maybe a pair of shoes. I'm like, all right, well, like what is the ask? And then they'll be like, well, he wants a Nintendo 64, a new refrigerator, a washer and dryer. And like,
Right.
we'll do like everything, like anything anybody tells me, we'll go out and do it. So I've been doing that every year for the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. Another time when what's it called? Toys
Tots.
R Us.
Yeah, that's right.
I saw somebody post something on social media a couple weeks before Christmas, and it was like giving back, and it just like it set in, it clicked, So I went to Toys R Us and I literally sat there and paid off every single layaway item and just sat there and swiped my credit card for every single person that put something on layaway. And then the Toys R Us called those people and said, hey, your toys are ready. So doing that, church, tithing back to church, I like to just be a blessing. When I'm out of the country, seeing people work hard. We go to a lot of like all inclusive resorts. Tipping them a couple $100, whatever it looks like. Just trying to be a blessing for other people.
Yeah, that says a lot about your character. It's hard too. I mean, for me, you gotta kind of build that up because like you work so hard for the money to give it away. It's like, I think when you see other people be charitable like yourself, it inspires me to be more charitable. And it's funny, like I realized how tight I was when I was onboarding students and I would hear their goals and I'm like, oh man, I'm freaking cheap. So I've done a lot of those things, but I need to do more for charity. My wife's pretty good about that, but I could do a lot more. I like that layaway idea. That's a freaking awesome.
It's
now,
cool.
do they know that you did it, or it just is totally private? So
totally
they're
private.
just like, who's this masked man?
For sure. Well, curious your thoughts on this. My wife and I discussed this matter.
Right.
And, I'm on social media. You're on social media, right? I post on social media to help inspire other people, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things is like, the giving muscle is when you do make the give, people that, record it and, oh, I just gave this guy $100, look at me type of thing.
Yeah.
It can definitely have a negative connotation to it, but it can also have a very positive one. The only reason I did the Toys R Us and paid off all the layaways is because I saw somebody else do it on, not that, but something similar on social media, and it lit the light bulb. Again, another thing, we went to the week before Christmas, we went out, I called 3 of my friends, I said, let's go get lunch. It's $1,000 a piece. We're going to tip the waiters and the waitresses. So they got a $3,000 tip afterwards. The only reason I did it is because I saw it on social media. So I'm curious your thoughts, sharing those things to motivate others to do it, or keep it, private the way, quote unquote, it should be. I'm torn in the middle, so I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Like just for the same reason that you said it, like the part of me that says like, don't do it because you should just do it. But the whole point of like, I know what you're talking about because my buddy John Gafford did the same thing and I saw it on social media, right? And I tried to do it. I was in Mexico. I couldn't make it down there to do it. But I think that you should definitely record it, even if you get hate for recording it, because you're going to inspire everyone. And I would just probably talk about the elephant in the room and be like, guys, I really hesitated on recording this. Like you could go refer back to the podcast with Troy. But like the reason I'm recording this is I want to just let you, normally I don't, I've done this for years and years and years, but I want to inspire others to give back because I can't just do this alone. And I think that I would definitely record it. It would feel a little bit weird in the beginning, but I'd probably it felt weird to record myself in the beginning. I was like, can you make my face less fat?
No, I agree with you. I think, there's a balance there. But I do it to motivate because that's how I get motivated. I see someone give big and it makes me want to give big right behind them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, half the time I wish I had a camera on me when some of the crazy stuff happens. So I think that with that, you're just going to inspire. So, the feel-good stuff does so much better on social media than the other stuff. So for that reason alone, like when you see somebody like, it's weird. Like I like that guy, SB Mower. Shout out to Spencer from Wichita, Kansas. But he goes and mows people's lawns, and now there's a bunch of people because this guy is the original. He just started like going to people, knocking on their door and being like, I'll mow your lawn. And he does like these lawn transformations. Mm-hmm. And I think that inspires other people to want to help other people. And like I mentioned in that question about too many people are worried about what we have and what our differences are versus what we have in common as human beings. And like Austin, you popping on here to share your story with me shows that you're a giver. And, I talk to people all the time and they're like, oh yeah, I have a booking fee. I have a this. I'm like, dude, let's get real. Okay. Like you're not that cool. Like if you're Pat Mahomes, maybe I'm paying it, but if you're not Pat Mahomes, I'm not paying it. So I think that like people put too much of a value on who they really are because we're all just human beings and everybody puts their pants on the same way if they have legs. Right. And people, go to the bathroom the same way. And so like, for me, it's just, about helping other people and doing things, because for me, there's always that little boy inside me, right? And I think he's still there because I'm 46 years old and I still feel like I'm a kid.
Yeah.
And so, it's just really cool to see other people change because you've made an impact. So I would definitely put everything that you can on social media. I mean, I've taken some stuff down that made me look bad, and I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have put that up, but I'm sure it's there somewhere. So
It's part of the game for sure.
yeah. So can we talk about like how you deal with risk management, market trends, and what you do for other things like that?
Yeah, I mean, right now, there's a big question mark, I think, in a lot of people's mind. What's going to happen? The rates, are we going up? Are we going down? Election season. Like, there's a lot of variables in play right now.
Yeah.
You can never know everything. So what I'm doing is I'm still buying real estate that cash flows, right? So that's the big thing. Cash flow will always get you through whatever, as long as it actually cash flows.
Right.
I'm buying real estate where I can build my equity through the Burr model. So we have 25-ish% equity at minimum in these deals, at least. So even if market crashes 25%, we're still net zero. So those are kind of like some of and then the interest only loans to increase my cash flow in the short term, because we don't know what's going to happen. So those are some of the things I'm doing on the real estate side right now. The other side is I'm sitting with a lot of cash. A lot of people say cash is trash. Which I agree, it can be. I actually heard a guy talk 2 days ago. He built a $43 billion company where he manages other people's assets. And he made the argument, he's like, when there's cash, it's, 0% or 0.5% ROI that you're making on the money. But the time comes, every 2, 3, 4, 5 years where you can make that move because you have the liquidity to do it. And then that one move has 100% ROI over 3 years is 33% a year. So although it's sitting there doing nothing now, when the opportunity comes, whether you buy a building or whether you're able to save your entire portfolio from going, belly up because you have the liquidity to do it, the ROI on that is insane. So something I'm doing is I'm sitting with a lot of cash right now as well.
I'm jealous. I think it's a smart play. I think you should have a bunch of cash on hand. I've missed out on deals before because I haven't had enough cash because I buy too much real estate. I've got a habit of not saving enough. And, when the big deals come up, you're like, oh. But that brings me to my next point, which is like, you're probably like one of the best private money guys out there in terms of raising private money. What do you do? How do you structure it? Do you do like a promissory note? Do you give them like a trustee's deed? And then how do you pitch them, Austin?
Yeah, no, great question. I've raised, $25, $30 million. It's never been in a fund or syndication model. It's always been deal by deal. So, something else I hate, someone's like, hey, I own 1,000 units, but you own 5% of them. I hate that stuff. I own all my units. So it's always deal by deal. So it's a promissory note and a mortgage per property when we borrow the funds. And then when we sell it or refinance, then we'll pay off the loan. But as far as like how to pitch it, couple bullet points on it, because I can talk all day about private money. But the first thing is genuinely knowing and understanding that you're giving somebody an opportunity, not asking them to believe in you. Because when people start, they think it's an ask. It's like, will you please give me money? Like, please. Right. And it's a very hard conversation at that point. But I wholeheartedly believe that me not telling somebody about the opportunity to invest with me is doing them a disservice. So, and I come from that type of standpoint. And don't get it wrong. Like, there's a mutually beneficial relationship there, but the relationship's not there if I don't say anything about it. So I talk to every single person I meet about raising money because I feel like I'm doing them a disservice. So that's the one huge mindset shift most people have to go through. And then the second thing is like, how to find, the money. It's literally just conversations. I was in Marco Island. This is just one example. I was in Marco Island last week. And I sat down to order some food at the bar, and there was a couple next to me. And I sat down and I got the food, and they're like, hey, like, what'd you order? That looks good. I don't even remember what I was like, it's rice. And, start the conversation. I was like, oh, like, how are you guys? My name's Austin. I was like, what are you guys down here for? They're like, actually, we rent a condo, for a month every year. And, this is just one of the bars that we come to. And the conversation just started flowing. I never pitch. I always extract. So I want to learn as much about them as humanly possible. And I was like, okay, how often have you been here? How long do you stay here for? Or do you rent or do you own? They're retired. Cool. What did you do before you retired? What do you do in retirement? So I ask as many, many, many questions as humanly possible,
Right.
which led to him saying, I went to college and I had it was like an accounting degree or something like that. And he asked
Right.
me what I did, and I was telling him about real estate. And he was like, you seem like, you don't have a degree, but you seem really intelligent with money. I was like, yeah, that's what I deal with. That's what I do every single day. I've raised $25 million. I've helped people invest their money into real estate. What do you do with your money? Where do you invest it at? And he started telling me where to invest it at. And one other thing, during the conversation, when I said I teach other people how to invest their money into real estate, I added in, it's like, yeah, sometimes they can earn a double-digit return. And he was at that, when I said that, he was like, oh man, that would be great. So I was like, cool, I got it. So when I asked him where he invested his money, he started telling me, and it wasn't earning a double-digit return. And then I got
Right.
his phone number, said, hey, if you're interested, I can tell you more about it. And I actually got a follow-up call later today with him. So it's literally just having a conversation, not pitching, giving somebody an opportunity if they're interested.
Right. And so when you structure the deal with them, so you're going through, and that makes a lot of sense. Versus when you ask for money, it's like they can say no. They got the power of the yes and the no.
For sure.
Right. Versus saying like, here's the opportunity. So when you set it up for them, do you run them through the deal, or do you just talk about like, is it just a general analysis?
Yeah, I think the best, when you talk about private money, most people go straight to like millionaires. Like, I'm going to raise money from the rich people. The problem
Right.
is the rich people know money, right? They
Yeah.
want equity. They want to do, they want you to make monthly mortgage payment, interest payments. They want to escrow the rehab funds. So the best money that you can raise is from people that don't understand money, right? And you teach them how to invest their money properly to earn, a 10% ROI or whatever it is, which is better than typically they can get elsewhere. That's backed by a house. It's backed by an asset. I forget the question.
No, you're good. You're good. So basically, what I was saying was, like, do you do it deal by deal,
Yes.
or do you just give an overview?
Yeah. So when I teach people how to invest into real estate, they wouldn't even know if I sent them numbers. So typically when they first start, I'll send them like address, purchase, rehab, total investment after repaired value. And that's it. Hey, you're investing 100, it's worth 150 when it's done. And that's most like people even know. There's some, very rarely they'll ask for more information because simply people just don't know what they don't know. And as I've built those relationships, now it's literally a text. It's like, hey, I got a deal on Friday. It's 200 grand. Are you in? Yes, I'm in. And that's it. I draft the notes, the mortgages. I send everything to the title company, and they just wire in the funds. So it just depends on the type of relationship and how long you've been dealing with that person.
That's awesome. So that gives me some. I don't deal with a lot with private money. The only private money I've ever done is my mom. When I first got started, had like 100,000, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna double this up for you," it felt great. But
Yeah.
I need to get more into the private money thing, because so it sounds like you're funding entirely all of your deals 100% with private money, no hard money, no local lenders. It's all private money. Is that correct?
97% of everything has been 100% private money. There's been a couple new construction, which was hard money, and then the gap I raised private money, so it was still 100% funded. And there's been a couple scenarios where the seller has carried, and then my down payment and the rehab funds I've raised from a private money lender in second position with long-term financing with them. So yes, majority it's all private money, but even if it's not all private money, the private money is the rest of whatever I need.
Awesome. So when you do that and you're paying people back and you're kind of keeping track of all that, what do you use for that? Are you using like Google Sheets? Are you using like accounting? Is it done in your QuickBooks? And how do you deal with how do you set up their like expectations in terms of like, how people can be with money? Like, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? Right?
Yep. No, 100%. So we structure it in a way where all interest accrues until the payoff. So we don't have to ever make any monthly interest payments. So there's no, hey, did I pay? Did I miss? How much have I paid? So when we go to sale and pay off, it's very clear how much is owed because it's from day one to now. Everything is owed. And then it's just a simple, Excel spreadsheet that we have. We put in the payoff date, the start date, and the interest rate, and then it tells us how much the payoff is. So that part's very easy. And as far as like keeping track of everyone, I just have a spreadsheet with everybody's name and roughly how much money they have, and then any notes, of who they are. Are they on the fence? Their children's name, because like these are relationships, right? You got to understand people to be able to raise money. And another cool thing is like when I meet people out in everyday life, and I think they have any interest in private money lending at some point in the future. In my phone, I'll save it as PML. Their last name will be PML, private money lending. So there's been a few times in my career where we had a huge influx of deals and I didn't have access to the capital. And I would just type in PML and then get on the phone and start calling people to raise the rest of the money. So, it's a pretty simple system, though.
I love it, man. I've learned more about private money from you. I would consider you a private money expert. I mean, because I don't think anybody that I know in real estate uses private money on 90% of their deals. Most guys I know, including myself, use local banks and hard money lending just because it's kind of hard to get that thing going. But you've got it, you build that confidence so well and the ask and be able to size people up and dangle the little carrot with the double-digit returns. And most people who aren't in the real estate game, they're like, double-digit returns, that's crazy, where it's really not in real estate. You can make 400% on your returns. So I appreciate you sharing that. I did have a couple other questions. So one thing for me that I've seen firsthand, and this is crazy. I'm not going to tell this person's name, but I know an individual of mine who's actually been somebody I looked up to a lot, and I've talked to them. And you mentioned about the guy who owns 5% of 100 units and this and that. And there's a lot of people out there like, I own 12,000 doors, and you're like, you don't own shit. I'm with you. I got the ego play in there. I'm like, I own most of my stuff.
Yeah.
I've got a partner on like 50 properties, but everything other than that is 100% mine.
Love it.
But one thing that you mentioned is these guys that are raising money, and what happened is a lot of these loans that they got were bridge loans, and the interest rates jumped up. And we're talking about the real estate crash here. I believe that the commercial sector, guys like Grant Cardone, and I don't know how you feel about him, but guys like that who borrowed like really deep and we're doing this. And this is a sophisticated guy. I know one person in particular who's handing back 16 loans, over $100 million of properties because the interest rates went from 4 to 8, and they were in a bridge loan and they can't refinance, and now the banks are squeezing them. And a lot of that stuff is being worked out on the sidelines. But I would say that a majority of the syndicators out there, the guys who are syndicating, who were in the middle of it, are going under. A lot of apartment buildings, a lot of apartment buildings. What do you think about what's happening with the real estate market?
1,000% agreed. It's wild to me. The more I kind of get into, the social media world and meet, these people that I once looked up to, a lot of them are jokers. Like
fakes.
They'll take money and they won't fulfill. They'll stop responding. They'll stop answering. I get DMs at least once a week, like from somebody random. Hey, do you know so-and-so? I paid them X and they won't return my calls. And it's people like that are out here on social media. It irks me to the core. Yes, definitely syndicators are getting massively pinched right now. So again, okay, on a syndication, well, they told me I can get a 19%. That's an IRR, number one, which means there's a lot of variables in play to get that return.
Do you know what an IRR means?
Internal rate of return.
Yeah, but do you know what it really means? It's a complete. It's because I didn't know what it meant until I looked it up. I did a video on Grant Cardone, and that's what he sells. It means projected future return, which is bullshit. It means complete bullshit. It means I made the number up based on what I think it's going to sell for. It's a complete. You would never use that number. Yeah.
No, agreed. And private money lenders see that number and they're like, oh yeah, 19%, I'm in. That's great. The problem is, number one, it's a projection. Number two, it has no collateral. You're part of the entity. You don't have a mortgage on the asset. And number three, it doesn't have a promissory note. So if the deal goes belly up, guess what? You're out all your money. So, yes, people are hurting a lot. So when people are looking to invest, they have to make sure they're doing it the right way with the right people. Because one of my mentors, he said, some guy was like, yeah, I'm making X, Y, and Z dollars. They're like, yeah, it's good when it's good. What happens when it's bad? Like that's what really matters. And yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of people getting pinched. I'm seeing a little bit more deal flow through foreclosure. I bought a couple out of foreclosure last year, and I think a lot more is going to come this way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome that you're paying attention to that too, because so many people. And I want to go a little bit deeper on the fake guru part. I actually happen to know some. I'm not going to say their name again, but this individual, I didn't know them very well, but like they started getting a jet and flexing on the jet and stuff, and the person didn't even own a house, not one house, and is putting themselves as a real estate investor. And like, part of me is like, man, do I just freaking attack them and let them know? And then there's another person, I won't say their name, but I've watched that person like lie and make up stuff and on the coaching end of things, right? Like just take people's money. And I'm like, man, in my opinion, there's gonna be a big shakeup in a couple of different ways. One, I think wholesaling is gonna get shaken up, and it's gonna be you're gonna either have to be licensed or it's gonna be illegal to do it. So you better start double closing.
Yeah.
The other thing is on the social media, what do you want to call it? The coaching side of things. I think there's going to be in the next few years also the FTA is going to crack down and they're going to come down on some of the guys. So, I know everything I put is on the record. So I'm prepared for it, but I've seen so many scoundrels and scammers as an honest guy, which I can tell you are just by the way you're answering the questions. Do you want to rat these guys out? I mean, how do you feel about them?
I fight with I can stand on anything I've ever said. Like I got the HUDs, I got whatever it is, and these people don't. And like, yes, I fight with myself a lot. It's like, am I the guy to put them on blast to catch all the heat? But like,
want to do it together?
the problem is like, it doesn't hurt me. Like I don't lose anything. Like I'm doing my thing. It hurts the people that don't know any better. And that's the very unfortunate part, is the people that actually need help who's actually getting hurt the most.
Yeah, the other thing I've seen people do lately is use religion a lot to kind of try get people in as well. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just a couple questions to follow up with you. First of all, before we end, make sure you give us a 5-star review. Austin's been dropping bombs here left and right. And Austin, I know you've got a lot of social medias. How do they follow your journey?
Yeah, every social media, Austin Rutherford. If you want to DM me, Instagram at Austin Rutherford Official. I respond to every DM, so would love to connect with anybody on here.
Awesome. And you also have a coaching program. Do you want to give a plug for that?
Yeah. So I have a basic private money course. I used to sell for $1,000. It's literally $27 now. It's everything I talked about times a million. If you have any desire to raise money, this is what you need. Use privatemoney.com. And then through that, you can find the coaching program as well.
The private money course is $27.
It's a no-brainer.
I'm buying it because I think I'm serious. I'm gonna buy that. I'm gonna give it to my students, and I'm gonna say because I told them honestly, I'm like, I'm not a big private money guy. I said, you can do it a bunch of different ways. You can do it this way, that with the other thing, but yeah, I'm gonna buy that thing from you. I mean,
sure.
Why not? Why not? I mean, that's dollars. Well, that's what the funny thing is, people say like, I bought a 96,000 square foot skyscraper.
Nice.
I've done a bunch of crazy deals.
Yeah.
But I haven't raised a ton of private money, and and that is your freaking bailiwick. That's your skill set, and so, and it's probably not something. But the one thing I did want to kind of finish up was, so my goal is to build a company and take it public.
Yeah.
That is all about raising capital.
Yep.
Have you thought about building a REIT or something like that because of your ability to raise capital?
Yeah, and yes, I've thought about it very heavily. Putting a debt fund, like whatever it looks like. The reason I haven't yet, which I think inevitably it will happen, but the reason I haven't yet, one, once you raise money, you have to pay interest on it. And I feel like it could negatively impact me by forcing me into bad deals to try to get the ROI. So that's something that I've been hesitant on a little bit. And then the other side, like I like ownership. Like I like owning the deals. So, once you raise a fund, like obviously, they get a piece of the deal. So I haven't yet, but I think inevitably that's where everything leads to. So I'm sure at some point I will.
Cool. What's been your hardest social media to grow on?
YouTube, 100%.
Yeah, me too. It's like, it's the most infuriating thing.
But like, It's the most important. I wish
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on Instagram and TikTok. And the problem is like people there are looking for dopamine hits. People on YouTube are looking to learn, right? So that's something, I definitely would have changed. And I'm this year, again, focusing a lot more on YouTube. But yeah, I haven't figured out how to crack the code over there.
Yeah, I had the videos that crack the code are like the ones you don't want to reshoot. Like I got one that like why move out of California. I'm like it was my one video that took off. It got like 600,000. Everything else is like 300 views, 200 views. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll do a bunch of California videos, man. I appreciate you coming on and sharing all your wisdom, sharing all your information, being vulnerable with us, and you're a caring guy. I'd love if it works out for you to come and be a mastermind speaker at our next event here in Kansas City, if you're open to it. If not, that's okay too.
No,
but
let me know.
One final question. I almost forgot to ask it.
Yep.
I had a guy on a podcast, and he's like, yeah, one of this guy's yacht, he threw a yacht. And I was like, and it was you. And I was like, oh, I got to ask him when he comes on. Tell me about that, dude. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, so every once in a while we'll do a yacht day. So living down here in South Florida, obviously there's yachts everywhere. So we'll rent one for the day, we'll sell tickets to it. People will fly in and we'll just literally hang out on the yacht all day. It's 130 foot yacht. And I remember the first time, the reason I do it is like, it's the experience that matters, right? When people can see themselves in something, it opens up their mind to the possibilities. And when the first time I walked onto a yacht, I was like, yo, what is this? Yeah. And I want people to have that same thing because it takes them to the next level. So it's something we do every once in a while. That's
awesome. And I seen a big yacht. I was just in Mexico. There was a yacht owned by this guy, Dennis Washington. I forget what it was called, but I was like, I don't know. What does that thing cost? 5-10 million? I looked it up, like 250 million. I'm like, oh, I'm a little bit off, man.
That's funny.
Man, it's been a pleasure having you on. I hope that we get to meet in person, and I really appreciate you guys. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give Austin a 5-star review. Follow him on the socials. Learn how to get private money and take action. Appreciate you guys.
Peace. Brother.
Did you ever want to invest in real estate? Did you ever want to live the life of your dreams? Did you want financial freedom? We have a free Facebook group, the Millionaire Mentorship Facebook group for real estate investing. Make sure you join. The link is in the description. If you want to schedule a free call with me and my team and you actually want to start, I would suggest you do so. We have helped hundreds of people change their lives, and all they had to do was get started. They booked a call with me and my team, and they got the ball rolling. And I'm so confident that if you don't get your first or next investment property within the first 90 days, you don't pay, and I'll give you $1,000 cash. That's how confident I am. Obviously, you got to take action. You can't just do nothing and expect that to happen, but that's life. Life's all about taking action. Make sure you give this podcast a 5-star review, share it with a friend, and take action.